Hello, and welcome back to The Wrinkle. So I want to start this video by saying that I spend most of my working life working with people who are living with dementia and their families and others who are in their lives. I think it's very important to treat everybody with dignity and respect. And I think language is very important. But when I was reading the person-centered language guidelines around dementia, I was kind of puzzled. So let me say some words to you and you tell me if they are offensive. And bear in mind that we would be using these words when we're talking about people living with dementia. Dementia. Disease. Caregiver. Caregiver burden. Difficult behavior. Challenging behavior. Dealing with behaviors, handling a behavior, placement, long-term care placement. Another word they don't want us to use is loved one, because when we're talking to people who might be care partners for those living with dementia, they may not love their family member. The relationship could be very complicated, so saying loved one might not be accurate. You might be saying to yourself, well, why are those words offensive? Why is it offensive to say that a behavior is challenging or that someone is wandering? Why is it not preferable to say that anymore? Isn't that what's happening? Well, in a way, yes, those words are descriptive, but saying a challenging behavior is not as accurate as it could be. So instead of saying, well, this individual with dementia has a challenging behavior, then maybe it's more accurate to say that when it's time for a person to have an incontinence brief changed, the physical response is one of pinching and swatting away the arm of the person who's trying to do the incontinence brief change. The latter is more descriptive. It actually describes what's going on in a non-judgmental way. Is that less judgmental than saying it's challenging? Well, it's still describing something that, let's face it, it is a challenge. But in providing those details, it's more likely that there will be an ability to really understand what's going on and maybe come to a solution. I'm still making up my mind about the person-centered language guidelines. I'm happy that right now these are guidelines, suggestions. They're not the required way that one has to speak. So far, nobody has really called me on the carpet for using some of those terms when I do. And I do hear a lot of people who work in geriatrics and work with people with dementia and their families who use some of these terms. So right now it sounds like it's not punitive, the fact that these guidelines are out there. But I think it's really interesting to see how language is evolving. I hope that we can use these guidelines to foster the increase in respect for people who are living with dementia. I think that these guidelines could help people to reflect on how they're choosing language and what we're really trying to say and whether or not what we're saying is really accurate. Accuracy in our language is important, and so is the truth. Some of the truths that we have to talk about in dementia care are difficult. And The language that we use is never going to not reflect that there are difficulties, there is pain, and there is suffering. And there are challenges and frustrations for people living with dementia and for those who are their care partners. If you're interested in taking a look at the person-centered language guidelines, I will leave a link down below. I would be interested to hear what you have to say. Like I say, I'm still digesting them and thinking about ways to use these guidelines in my work and in this work that we're doing on the wrinkle. I also want to say that I'm sorry if I've used language that has not been person-centered. I'm learning along with everybody else. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Wrinkle.